Welcome to Toby's Student Expert Podcast. On this platform, Toby will engage with student experts, their field of study, passions and interests. My name is Tommy Poppers. My field of study is art and literature. My expertise is in comparative literature.
Hello listeners, welcome to the 7th episode of the Student Expert Podcast. This part is the final part of Tommy Popper's interview. Tommy talks about art and power and the fact that art challenges the dominant discourse. He talks a bit about his book that he wrote while in Southeast Asia, also the articles that he wrote, the album that he wrote, and also the play he wrote, the forthcoming play that he's working on at the moment. So please enjoy.
You're well established in the art world, but everyone's being so kind, so thank you.
No, that's quite all right. I don't know if I'm well established in the art.
I think you're well established in what you do and what you create, I think, and I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to engage with it.
No problem at all. I mean, that's the kind of the thing with it is passing it down, isn't it, and sharing, and maybe one day, someone will come up to you and want to talk to you, and it's the same thing, and it's just something you pass on.
So, going back to what I saw with Genesis Peerage, he was saying that the establishment, when he was run out of England, that the art and music and performances that he created, and he was an occultist as well.
Yeah.
But he very much connected magic with art and performance and everything. And he was saying that the establishment don't understand what he does or are able to recreate it, but they recognise it and they distrust it. Like him and other artists, which is why he was run out of England. And I suppose it ties in ideas of resistance as well, but not always, because I think there are some people that do create art in a way that is not resistance, but just expression.
Yeah, many people have kind of written about this. If you want to sort of discuss kind of power relationships, I suppose Michel Foucault is the first person to go to.
Biopolitics, yeah.
Yeah, and I think he's probably gone out of fashion a bit now, but I still love Michel Foucault. I love his idea of power relationships. I think when we're talking about art and power, I suppose the dominant way of seeing the world, the dominant narrative, the dominant art form becomes the thing that has power and that we all buy into, and that has power, If I hold a Union Jack up, it has power. It is a meaningless symbol. It's some colours and some crosses, but it doesn't. It communicates a sense of power and authority, and many different narratives and stories dragged up in that symbol or that image. So it is very powerful and resonates at a certain time with a certain amount of people. Maybe it's changed now. Maybe I don't know. Maybe the power's gone from that. But I think there's a constant struggle between power and art of what becomes acceptable, what becomes unacceptable, what becomes normalized, what becomes radicalized, and always, the first people to be booted out of any regime, whether it be the British Empire or whether it be the Nazis or whether it be North Korea, it's always going to be the artists,
Yeah.
They're the people that are feared the most, because you don't want someone that suddenly goes, actually, you know what, the world doesn't have to be like this. If you're trying to create some sort of powerful ideology that everyone's got to get behind, the first person you want to get rid of is the one that questions it. And not all art is about questioning, but much of art is about questioning reality and the way we see things. So of course they are the first people that are ostracized and kicked out, and that happens here too. We're very we're very much under the impression that it's free, you can do whatever you want here, and of course that's not the case at all, you know. And I think the more you travel around, the more you get to start to see the West from an outside perspective, as many of us have been fortunate to do. We start to realise that, you know, we're very much constricted by normality and what we consider is acceptable and normal, and what we can talk about and what we can't, and how we refer to things.
I think power structures, they have to justify the reason why they're in power. And so they target certain people. One of my lecturers last year brought up the idea of, he asked the question, what is the purpose of art? I said that art has no purpose, it just is. It's something that happens, and I think people like yourself are able to cultivate art and create it, but that's why I think it's not the preserve of certain people, even though certain people like yourself are able to create it, but we're all engaged with it in some way.
Yeah, I see it very much as intrinsically as who I am and what I do. Like I said, you know, the art can be as much about the everyday. I've always been about questioning many different things in many different cultures, and it's got me in trouble, as you know. My book's been banned, which is really difficult to do these days, but well done. I didn't set out, obviously, to get it banned. I set out to tell a story that was authentic. And of course, just by doing that, you're naturally going to upset somebody, you know, and that wasn't the motivation for doing it. I didn't set out and think, oh, I'm going to write a book that's banned just so it's this cachet. You know, great, I'll be really cool. That wasn't my motivation for doing it at all. I think the motivation for doing that was to be authentic. And of course, when you are authentic and when you do tell a truth, naturally you are at some point going to upset someone's worldview, and some people react in different ways. Some people get violent, some people want to shut that down and go, no, I don't want to hear that doesn't happen.
Can you say what your book is, where it was banned and why it was banned?
Well, it was called A Year in Shorts, and I started to write it when I left the music industry and moved from London to Bangkok to start working as a teacher. And so I wrote a short story every month where I would focus on one of my experiences and then narrate it in a very kind of blog-like way. So it kind of has this idea of being a blog, but there's also a narrative within it. And just so happened that when I started this project to move over to Bangkok, there's huge political turmoil in Bangkok, which I wasn't, as I was starting to work there and to get to know the place, suddenly becoming very apparent. You know, there was huge revolutionary problems. The university I worked at was the centre of the military coup, basically, which was all of the red shirts congregated on my university grounds, and they were there for several weeks, and they were kind of very vocal against the government at the time and the policy. And then literally one weekend, the military moved in and cleared the whole place. Now, bearing in mind there was hundreds of thousands of people there, and many people were shot and killed. And I was stuck in the university. I couldn't leave, so I was kind of there. It sounds much more dramatic than it is, because I was just in a room, really, and just hearing gunshots. And then you go out the next day and you see kind of people have been burnt in a bus alive and those kind of things. And then subsequently you had this military coup in Thailand where it became illegal to write about these things. Well, by which time I'd finished my book. It was going to be published by a group over in Thailand who'd agreed to publish it and not really read it, you know. And I'd mentioned these bits of the military coup, and one of the themes running through all the stories is violence and aggression between men and sexuality. And I thought I'd be really clever in thinking, I could talk about the military coup without talking about the military coup, disguise it in sex, you know, because you're allowed to write about sex. You know, I could write pornography, that wouldn't get it banned. So I wrote loads of stories about kind of gay sexual experiences, but within that is very much a metaphorical story of what's happening to Thailand, and power and lack of power. And I thought I was being super, super clever and fooling everyone. And of course, they kind of cottoned onto it halfway through. So they pulled the funding, didn't get it published. Subsequently, it was all banned, but luckily I was writing under the name of Mystery, so no one really knew it was me. And then the publisher dropped it over in the UK, and it kind of, no one else would publish it because it had been, so it just existed in limbo for years. So I'm basically just taken ownership and published it for free online. Because it was turned into such a nightmare. I was taking it around and people were like, well, no, because it was signed to another company, we won't publish it, and blah, 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 blah. I don't really understand the logistics.
So in my ignorance, I have tried to look for it, but I can't. I'm really bad at technology and social media. So for my benefit and the benefit of the listeners, how can we engage with your book?
You can download it free from online. So if you go to my website, which is www.tommypoppers.com, and there will be a section in there that says words, which is links to my various blogs, some articles that I published in the magazines before I got fired. You can download, there's a link to it, and I've put it up on a free website, which is inkit.com, I think, and you can download it for free, 0 pence, and it won't cost you a thing. Obviously I lost loads of money and everything on it, but it doesn't matter, because it's kind of like, well, you know, it's out there. So it was just dragging on for many, many months, so I just wanted to get it out there and do it free.
And from your website, you can also get your, you can find links to your album as well.
Yep.
And what else? Blogs?
And I had many articles because I wrote for several international publications while I was travelling around Asia. Those subsequently got banned once the book was banned and were pulled off the internet. So I've kind of made a repository of all those, so you can access it. Some of them are funny, you know, I always try and make them funny, even though they are about serious things, and that's not because I'm not making light of those things. I just think sometimes humour can be a great tool to tell a pretty heavy truth, because some people don't want to think about the fact, oh my God, you know, we're oppressing people. And so if you make it entertaining in a sort of funny way, and you make people laugh at something, then they realise, oh my God, what have I just laughed at? You know, I'm laughing about, mass murder, which obviously intrinsically I'm not in any way saying is funny. I'm not saying that's funny at all, because but I think we seem to live in a really weird world where, you know, we're faced with kind of mass murdering atrocities constantly, and they seem to become almost like a background drone, and no one really does anything about it. You know, it's sort of like, oh, you know, we've invaded another country and murdered another million people, and it becomes a statistic. But if you make someone laugh about it, it kind of jumps in their memory, and suddenly you think, Christ, that is utterly absurd that was in any way became a background noise. You know? It's horrendous, you know, in a way.
Thank you.
Like I said, go to the website, tommypoppers.com, have a look. There's loads of different stuff in there that you can see. And thank you so much for taking the time to ask me these questions and be interested in what I'm doing. I mean, that's amazing.
Is there anything you want to tell me or the listeners?
No, I'm going back to Asia soon, but I'm organising Margate Pride for 2018 and 19. We've already started booking things, which seems mental, but that's kind of what that's the way we're doing those things. So I'll be back in the UK next year for the summer doing that. And I'm writing a whole new play.
Wow. Let's hear about that.
That'll wrap up.
If you don't mind talking about it.
Well, I like the idea of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. As I said to you at the beginning, I like this kind of gothic literature. So I'm writing a new book which is becoming a play, which is about these twin aspects of a person and how this evolves into a kind of a journey of reconciliation for the person. So that's in the offing.
Well, that's interesting because I know we're supposed to stop there, but briefly, this just reminds me of the experience of watching your play. Because as I said, you read the review, so I saw it kind of quite tumultuous. On the one hand, you were very humorous.
Yeah.
And then there were kind of very sinister aspects to it that were very closely tied up with the humour. But also there was pain there, suffering, recovery, a very, very touching experience of going through that. But what I saw, and I don't know whether this is the truth or not, but most of the play was very much well performed and well executed. But there were times, especially when you were venting, that I wasn't sure how much control you had over that, because it was so emotional and so painful, and I think most people probably experienced not what you went through, but what you were trying to convey. And particularly, there was one point in the play that you came towards, because Tom Thumb Theatre, for the listeners, is a very small venue, and with the stage very near the front row, which I was sitting at the front row, and there was a woman sitting next to me, and you came, I don't know whether you did this deliberately, but you came and stood between us and very, very kind of into the audience, and I can't remember what you were saying, but you were swearing and pointing. I think it was something like how pathetic you felt.
Yeah.
How much control did you have over that?
Well, I mean, that's the acting. That was a line that was written, and how you deliver that then changes possibly with each performance. But yeah, I mean, once you're in the zone and you're, because it is real, and I wanted that to be underlined, that there was an element of ridiculousness and feeling pathetic and feeling useless and worthless, and it was a reaction to that, and it was just sort of saying, I'm not, and I think people identify with that. I think the reason it works as a show in a sense is not just that, because people see authenticity. People aren't stupid. Yeah. I never underestimate my audience. I know, people know if something is authentic or not, and they're getting it. You know when you see a good actor, even if they're doing a Shakespeare play, which is hundreds and hundreds of years old, you can see an actress who is giving you all of her life in those old lines, and it's coming out and it feels so fresh and modern and today, even though it's 500 years old. It's authentic because you're engaging with this person speaking this truth, and I think that's there is an element of that obviously I wanted. There's no point in doing something for me unless you're committed to it. So it's about commitment.
So to actually wrap up,
it's great. I've had a great time chatting.
Can you briefly talk about a bit about your friend that was with you in the play? Kirsty Mackenzie.
Yeah,
because I know she was kind of a supporting you, but I found her interaction in the play really, really interesting, and the way that you work together, and the similarities between some of the story that I don't know how true that bit was about her.
Yeah.
But can you talk a bit about that?
Well, Kirsty's an artist. I've only recently met her since I came back to the UK, but we hit it off straight away. We were, yes, I wrote the play, but it very much evolved as we were rehearsing, and we became closer. We found there were many things we had in common, recovery being one of those things, dealing with past and sort of moving forward and being and what it means to be creatives in this new space and where we're taking it. So we were very much on the same boat, and she contributed an awful lot to that. I know yes, it's very much written by me and the songs for me, and I suppose I was the starring bit, but she was intrinsic to it. It's very much about her too.
Yeah.
It's certainly not all about me, and I made jokes about that actually in the play. I very much mocked my kind of
the bit when it's all about
and
the video in the middle.
Yeah, and I was like, oh God, it's all about her. And there's very much this. It's very self-aware that it wasn't just about me. It's very much about. I think it was us. And about our friendship and our conversations and things that evolved around that. So she was very important to it. Yeah, as anyone is, and that's what theatre is. I think that's one of the reasons I like theatre, is because it's a collaboration as well. Because I do work very much on a very solitary way as well when I write songs. Yeah. And it's really nice to work with a community of people, where it is a community. And it isn't all about me. Yeah, I wrote the show and I was in it very much about this persona that I'd created. Yeah. But it didn't exist in a vacuum. Other people contributed, big things to that to make it happen.
Yeah. Fantastic. Again, thank you very much. This has been absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant. It's been great talking to you. Yeah, thank you very much indeed.
What I'm loving about these interviews is that I'm meeting people from all walks of life, from areas of the community that I would not normally engage with, that for several years, particularly from the LGBTQ communities, that I would never engage with because of my imposed upbringing as a heterosexual, and the homophobic attitudes towards that. And so meeting with people, not just from the LGBT community, but meeting people who I'd not engaged with before, and that I'm learning from and communicating with, and it's very refreshing and very interesting to get to engage with people like Tommy and other people. In next week's episode, I have the pleasure of engaging with Ollie. Now, Ollie he's quite a conventional man, but he's very into psychedelics. However, although he's into psychedelics, he's not just someone that gets high. So please look out for that, for his episodes. His episodes are also in 3 parts. So see you next week, ladies and gentlemen.